The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was enormous. It floated in space, orbiting a star that belonged to no one. Inside, representatives from 247 different species sat in curved rows that spiraled up toward a domed ceiling. The ceiling showed the stars outside, making everyone feel small under the vastness of space. Ambassador Tae Yang stood on the central platform. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. Next to him stood Ji Woo, a younger woman with sharp features and a scientist's careful gaze. They both wore simple black uniforms with Earth's symbol on the shoulder. Around them, thousands of aliens watched and whispered through translation devices that made their words understandable to all. High Arbiter Vel Throne rose from his seat. He was massive, made of living crystal that reflected light in rainbow patterns. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber like breaking ice. The Council has made its decision regarding humanity. Tae Yang did not move. He had expected this moment for weeks. Ever since humanity had refused the Council's initial contact 3 months ago, tensions had been building. Earth had developed too quickly, they said. Humanity had gone from primitive radio signals to faster-than-light travel in just 150 years. Other species had taken thousands of years to achieve the same progress. The human species will surrender 40% of all resources from their home world, Velthrone continued. They will accept Council oversight of all military development. They will not expand beyond their current solar system without Council permission. These terms are non-negotiable. They are for the stability of the galaxy. Around the chamber, alien heads nodded. Some species showed approval with color changes on their skin. Others clicked mandibles or waved tentacles. This was how things were done. When a new species grew too powerful too quickly, the Council stepped in. They had done this hundreds of times before. Every species eventually agreed. It was better than war. Senator Crick stood up from his seat. He was reptilian, covered in dark green scales with yellow eyes that never blinked. Humanity must understand, he said, his voice hissing slightly. We are not your enemies. We are your guides. Every species in this chamber once sat where you stand. Every species accepted Council wisdom. It is the way of civilization. More approving sounds filled the chamber. A moth-like being named Counselor Mothra added her voice. Logic dictates cooperation. You are one world. We are thousands. Mathematics makes the choice obvious. Tae Yang listened to everything. He looked around at the assembled aliens, at the confidence in their faces and body language. They truly believed this was a simple matter. They had done this before. Why would humans be any different? Ji Woo leaned close to Tae Yang and whispered, They really think we'll just agree. They have no reason to think otherwise, Tae Yang whispered back. High Arbiter Vel Throne raised one crystalline arm. The Council requires your answer, Ambassador Tae Yang. Will humanity accept these terms and join the galactic community peacefully? The chamber went silent. Every eye, sensor, and antenna focused on the two humans standing alone on the central platform. Translation devices hummed, ready to carry Tae Yang's words to every corner of the galaxy. Tae Yang took a breath. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people living their lives under blue skies. He thought about humanity's history, about all the times humans had been told to surrender, to submit, to accept the rule of others. He thought about how those stories always ended. No, Tae Yang said simply. The translation devices carried the word. For a moment, nothing happened. The aliens seemed to be waiting for more words. Surely the human would explain, would ask for different terms, would begin the negotiation process. But Tae Yang just stood there. No, Velthrone repeated as if he had not heard correctly. That is correct, Tae Yang said. We decline your terms. You wish to propose different terms? Counselor Mothra asked, her antenna twitching with confusion. We do not wish to propose anything, Tae Yang replied. His voice was calm and clear. We are declining to negotiate now, the whispers started. They grew louder, filling the chamber with confused sounds in hundreds of languages. Aliens turned to each other, their translation devices working overtime. Some species that could not speak pointed at the humans with appendages of various kinds. Senator Crick stood again, his tail lashing behind him. You do not understand. This is not a request. This is how things are done. You cannot simply refuse. We can, Ji Woo said, speaking for the first time. And we are. This is madness, another alien called out. Do you not see how many we are? Do you not understand that you are alone? Tae Yang looked up at the speaker. then let his gaze sweep across the entire chamber. We understand perfectly. You have hundreds of worlds. You have thousands of ships. You have technology older than our civilization. We understand all of this. Then why do you refuse? Velthrone demanded. The crystal being's voice had lost its diplomatic smoothness. Now it sounded almost angry. Because you did not come to us as friends, Taeyang said. You came with demands. You told us to surrender parts of our world, to limit our freedom, to accept your control. You call it guidance. We call it subjugation. We offer you protection, Senator Crick shouted. We offer you knowledge and trade, and you offer us nothing we asked for. Taeyang interrupted. You decided what was best for us without asking what we wanted. That is not negotiation. That is domination. The chamber erupted into chaos. Hundreds of aliens tried to speak at once. Some were angry, shouting about human arrogance. Others seemed confused, unable to process what was happening. A few sat in silence, watching the humans with what might have been curiosity or fear. High Arbiter Velthrone raised both arms, and the chamber slowly quieted. Ambassador Taeyang, he said slowly, you must reconsider. Every species that has stood where you stand has accepted council terms. It is the foundation of our civilization. Without this process, there is only chaos. Or freedom, Taeyang said quietly. You are choosing conflict over cooperation, Velthrone said. No, Taeyang replied. You chose conflict when you made demands instead of offers. You chose conflict when you treated us like children who needed to be controlled. We are simply refusing to pretend otherwise. Taeyang turned to Jiwoo and nodded. Together, they stepped off the central platform. The aliens watched in stunned silence as the two humans walked toward the exit. Their footsteps echoed in the massive chamber. This meeting is not over, Senator Cricks called out. Taeyang stopped at the door and looked back. Yes, it is. When you are ready to speak with us as equals, not as subjects, you know where to find us. Until then, we have nothing to discuss. The door slid open. Taeyang and Jiwoo walked through it. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss. In the grand chamber, 247 species sat in complete silence. For the first time in 10,000 years of galactic history, someone had simply walked away. No negotiation, no compromise, no fear. High Arbiter Velthrone slowly returned to his seat. He looked around at the other council members, seeing his own confusion reflected in their faces. What do we do now? Councillor Mothra asked softly. No one had an answer. Nothing in 10,000 years of precedent had prepared them for this moment. Humans had done the impossible. They had refused to play the game entirely, and somewhere in the back of every alien mind a small seed of fear began to grow. If humans would not negotiate when facing overwhelming power, what would they do next? Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the battleship Indomitable, watching Jupiter's swirling clouds through the viewport. His crew worked quietly at their stations, checking weapons systems and running diagnostics on the ship's shields. They had been doing these drills for 3 days now, ever since the ambassadors walked out of the council chamber. Sir, we're getting another transmission from council space, his communications officer reported. They're demanding to speak with our government. Same response as before, Hyunwoo said calmly. Tell them to submit their requests through proper diplomatic channels. The officer nodded and sent the message. Hyunwoo allowed himself a small smile. The council was panicking. They kept sending messages, each one more urgent than the last. They wanted Earth to explain itself, to apologize. To come back to the negotiating table, Earth was not responding. Back on the council station, High Arbiter Velthrone sat in a private chamber with the senior council members. Holographic displays surrounded them, showing data from their historical archives. They had spent the last 2 days searching through 10,000 years of records, looking for any similar incident. The Vrelians refused council terms initially, said a spider-like being named Councillor Sektar. But they came back to negotiate within a week. The Korthan Empire tried to bargain, added another member. They wanted better terms. We gave them slightly better terms. They accepted. Senator Cricks paced back and forth, his claws clicking on the metal floor. Every species negotiates. Even the proud ones, even the stubborn ones. They posture, they argue, but eventually they see reason. Why are humans different? Velthrone studied the data floating in front of him. Chart after chart showed the same pattern. Species received an ultimatum. Species protested or tried to negotiate. Council showed strength. Species accepted terms. Sometimes it took days, sometimes months, but it always ended the same way. Perhaps we were too harsh, suggested Councillor Mothra. Perhaps we should offer them better terms. Absolutely not, Senator Crick said firmly. If we show weakness now, every species in the galaxy will think they can refuse Council authority. We must remain strong. On Earth, Dr. Bora sat in a monitoring station deep underground. Screens surrounded her, showing intercepts of alien communications. Her AI systems were translating and analyzing everything the Council sent out. What she saw made her shake her head in amazement. They still don't get it, she said to her colleague. They think we're bluffing, are we? The colleague asked nervously. Bora looked at him. Do you want to give up 40% of Earth's resources? Of course not. Then we're not bluffing. The Council had sent a request to speak with Ambassador Yoon, the woman who had led humanity's first contact negotiations 15 years ago. She was retired now, living quietly in a coastal city, but she agreed to speak with them through a video link. Yoon's face appeared on the holographic display in the Council chamber. She looked older than they remembered, with white hair and deep lines around her eyes. But those eyes were still sharp. Ambassador Yoon, Velthrone said with relief, perhaps you can help us understand. Why has humanity refused to even discuss our terms? Yoon was quiet for a moment. Then she said, do you know what you did wrong? The Council members looked at each other in confusion. You assumed, Yoon continued, that your experience with other species would apply to us. You assumed that because you have always done things a certain way, that way must be correct. You assumed that showing strength would make us respect you. It has worked for 10,000 years, Senator Crick said defensively. With species that evolved from prey animals, Yoon replied. With species that came from worlds where cooperation was necessary for survival. With species that learned early to submit to the strong to avoid conflict. She leaned forward and her expression hardened. Humans evolved differently. We were hunters. We were survivors. Our world tried to kill us with ice ages, diseases, predators, and disasters. We survived by refusing to give up. Every major human civilization has stories of people who chose death over submission. It is in our bones, in our culture, in our very identity. That is irrational, Councillor Mothra said. To you, perhaps, Yoon said, but to us it is the most rational thing in the world. When you demanded we surrender and submit, you did not offer us a choice. You offered us an enemy, and humans do not surrender to enemies. Velthrone felt something cold settle in his chest. What are you saying? I am saying you made a mistake, Yoon said simply. You could have come to us with offers of trade, of partnership, of mutual benefit. You could have shown us respect. Instead, you showed us force, and force is something humans understand very well. The connection ended. Yoon's face disappeared from the display. The Council chamber was silent. She is exaggerating, Senator Crick said, but his voice lacked confidence. They are trying to intimidate us. Pull up human history files, Velthrone ordered. The holographic displays changed, showing data about Earth. Council analysts had been studying humanity since first contact, but now they looked deeper. They examined human wars, human literature, human culture. What they found disturbed them. Humans had fought wars that lasted decades. They had continued fighting even when their cities were destroyed, when millions died, when victory seemed impossible. There were records of small human forces defeating much larger ones through sheer determination. There were stories of humans choosing to die rather than surrender. Look at this conflict, Councillor Sektar said, highlighting a file. The humans call it World War II. One group tried to conquer others. The others refused. They fought for 6 years. 50 million humans died, but they kept fighting until the aggressors were completely defeated. 50 million? Another councillor whispered. Out of how many? About 2 billion at the time, Sektar said. The numbers were staggering. Most council species would have surrendered long before such losses. But humans had not. They had kept fighting. More files appeared. Vietnam, where a small human nation fought the most powerful human nation to a standstill. Afghanistan, where foreign powers tried to occupy human territory and failed repeatedly. The Alamo, where humans fought to the last person rather than surrender. This is their history, Velthrone said slowly. This is what they teach their children. Not stories of wise compromise, but stories of defiant resistance. On Mars, Private Haywan finished her shift at the defensive garrison and went to write a letter home. The council had intercepted similar letters and was now analyzing them for intelligence. "Dear Mom and Dad," Haywan wrote. "They're saying war might come. Everyone here is ready. I know you might be worried, but don't be. We trained for this. If they want a fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget. The other soldiers and I were joking today about how the aliens have never fought someone who fights back. They're in for a surprise." The letter went on, casual and confident. There was no fear in it, no doubt. Just a strange excitement, as if Haywan was looking forward to the challenge. When council analysts read letters like this one, they felt their fear grow. These were not the words of people who would surrender. These were the words of people who welcomed conflict. An ancient being named Elder Magistrate Thundor called for a private meeting. He was so old that he remembered species that no longer existed. He had seen conflicts that were now just legends. "I remember a warning," Thundor said, his voice weak with age, "from a species that lived long ago. They explored many worlds, studied many creatures. They had a saying about certain types of predators." "What was the saying?" Felthrone asked. "Beware the patient predator," Thundor said. "They do not chase you in a quick burst. They follow you slowly, steadily, never stopping. You can run until your legs give out, until your heart bursts, and still they will be coming. Distance means nothing to them. Time means nothing to them. They simply do not stop." The old being looked at each council member. "Humans are persistence predators. Their bodies evolved to run long distances, to track prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. What works on prey animals works on other species as well. They simply do not stop." The meeting ended in heavy silence. The council members returned to their chambers, each lost in their own thoughts. On the Indomitable, Captain Hyunwoo received new orders from Earth. He read them carefully, then called his crew together. "The council has not withdrawn their demands," he said. "Command believes they will try to enforce them with military action. We are to maintain defensive positions and prepare for engagement. Remember your training. Make them regret they came." His crew responded with determination. They had drilled for this. They were ready. In the council station, Velthrone sat alone watching the stars. For 10,000 years, the council had maintained peace through strength and negotiation. Every species had played by the rules. Now, for the first time, someone had refused to play at all. And Velthrone was beginning to realize that this might change everything. Dr. Sungmin sat in a small room aboard the council station. She had been brought here 5 days after the failed negotiation. They wanted to understand humanity, they said. They wanted to know why humans were so different from every other species in the galaxy. Across from her sat 3 alien psychologists. One resembled a floating jellyfish with dozens of thin tentacles. Another looked like a tree with eyes. The third was covered in soft fur and had 6 legs. They all stared at her with various types of sensory organs. "Tell us about human childhood," the jellyfish being said. Its voice came from a translator device. "What do human parents teach their young?" Sungmin thought about the question. "We teach them many things. Language, mathematics, how to be kind to others. We teach them about their world and their place in it." "Do you teach them to obey authority?" the tree being asked. "Sometimes," Sungmin said. "But we also teach them to question authority. We teach them that some things are worth fighting for, even when fighting seems impossible." The 3 aliens exchanged looks that Sungmin could not interpret. "That seems contradictory," the furry being said. "How can you teach both obedience and rebellion?" Sungmin smiled slightly. "Because humans believe in both. We have rules and laws, but we also believe that bad rules should be broken. We have a long history of people who disobeyed unjust laws and were later celebrated as heroes." She pulled up a holographic display and showed them images. This woman refused to give up her seat on a bus because of her skin color. That was against the law at the time. She broke the law. Now she is remembered as a hero who helped change her society. More images appeared. This man led people to refuse paying unfair taxes. He is now considered the father of his nation. These students stood in front of tanks to protest their government. These workers went on strike even though it was illegal. These soldiers refused orders they believed were wrong. The images kept coming, hundreds of them, from every continent and every era of human history. People refusing, resisting, standing up to power. "You celebrate disobedience?" the jellyfish being asked, sounding confused. "We celebrate principled disobedience," Sungmin clarified. "When authority is just and fair, we follow it. When authority is unjust and unfair, we resist it." The difference is important to us. The tree being's branches rustled. But how do you decide what is just or unjust? Who makes that determination? Each human must decide for themselves, Sungmin said. We believe that every person has the right to make that choice. We call it individual freedom. The three psychologists were silent for a long moment. Finally, the furry being said, "This explains much. When the council gave humans an ultimatum, humans decided it was unjust. Therefore, resistance was not only acceptable but necessary." Exactly, Sungmin said. Back on Earth, children were going to school as normal. In one classroom, a teacher named Ms. Unji was reading a story to her students. The story was about a small group of soldiers who held a fort against an entire army. They all died, but they never surrendered. Why didn't they just give up? One student asked. They could have lived. Because some things matter more than living, Unji said gently. They believed in something bigger than themselves. They believed in freedom. The students listened carefully. They had heard many stories like this one. Stories of people who refused to quit, who kept trying even when success seemed impossible. These stories were part of being human. On the council station, Elder Magistrate Thundor was giving a presentation to the full council. His old voice echoed through the chamber as he shared his research. I have studied human evolution, Thundor said. Most species in this chamber evolved from prey animals. Your ancestors survived by hiding, by running, by submitting to stronger predators. This shaped your psychology. When faced with superior force, your instinct is to negotiate, to find a peaceful solution. He paused, letting that sink in. Humans evolved differently. They were both prey and predator. They learned to hunt animals larger and stronger than themselves. They learned to work together to bring down threats. But most importantly, they learned persistence. A video played showing an ancient human hunt. A group of humans followed an antelope across grassland. The antelope was faster, but the humans just kept jogging after it. Hours passed. The antelope ran until it was too exhausted to continue. The humans, still running steadily, caught up to it. This is how humans hunted, Thundor explained. Not with speed or strength, but with endurance. They simply kept going until their prey collapsed. This strategy shaped their entire species. Humans do not give up. It is not in their nature. Senator Crick stood up angrily. This is biological determinism. Surely culture and education matter more than ancient evolution. Let me show you human culture, Thundor said. He displayed more data. Human literature across all civilizations includes stories of persistence. The tortoise that beats the faster rabbit. The small engine that could climb the mountain by refusing to quit. The student who fails 100 times but succeeds on the 101st try. More examples appeared. Human sports celebrate coming back from behind to win. Human religion teaches that faith means continuing to believe even without proof. Human philosophy values determination above natural talent. Their music, their art, their entire culture reinforces the same message. Never give up. Counselor Mothra studied the data carefully. This is troubling. If their culture and biology both push them toward persistence, then threatening them may not work. Threats only work on species that fear loss more than they value pride. In the military base on Mars, Private Haiwan was talking with her fellow soldiers during a break. They sat in a common room, drinking coffee and discussing the situation. You think they'll actually attack? One soldier asked. Probably, Haiwan said. They're not used to being told no. They'll want to teach us a lesson. We're badly outnumbered, another soldier pointed out. Haiwan shrugged. So? The Spartans were outnumbered at Thermopylae. The Texans were outnumbered at the Alamo. The Vietnamese were outnumbered against the Americans. Being outnumbered just makes the story better. The others laughed, but there was no humor in it. There was something else, something harder. They were not joking about dying. They were simply unafraid of it. A council intelligence team intercepted this conversation. When they analyzed it, they found similar conversations happening across all human military installations. Humans were not panicking. They were not afraid. They were, in a way the council found disturbing, almost looking forward to the conflict. They want to fight us, one analyst reported to Velthrone. Not because they think they will win, but because fighting matters to them more than winning. Velthrone studied the report in silence. Every piece of new information made the situation worse. The council had thought humans were like other species, just more technologically advanced. But they were not. They were fundamentally different in ways the Council had never encountered. Dr. Sung Min was called back for another session with the alien psychologists. This time they had more specific questions. What would make humans surrender? The jellyfish being asked directly. Sung Min considered the question carefully. Complete extinction, she finally said. That is the only guarantee. As long as one human survives, they will continue to resist. It is who we are. That cannot be true, the tree being protested. Surely if the cost becomes too high, if enough humans die, the survivors would accept peace. You would think so, Sung Min said. But our history suggests otherwise. We have fought wars that killed large portions of our population. We kept fighting. We have faced plagues, famines, and disasters that nearly destroyed us. We survived and rebuilt. There is something in the human spirit that refuses to accept defeat. She leaned forward. Do you know what humans say when things seem hopeless? We say it's always darkest before the dawn. We say this too shall pass. We say fall 7 times. Stand up 8. We have 100 different ways to say the same thing, keep going. The furry being made a sound that the translator interpreted as distress. Then there is no way to peacefully integrate humanity into the Council. There is, Sung Min said. You could treat us as equals. You could offer us partnership instead of demanding our submission. You could recognize that respect is earned, not forced. The Council has never done that before, the jellyfish being said. Then perhaps the Council needs to change, Sung Min replied. Back in the main Council chamber, Velthrone called for an emergency session. Every Council member attended and the chamber was tense with worry. We have made a grave error, Velthrone announced. We approached humanity the way we have approached every other species. But humanity is not like other species. They value independence more than they value safety. They value pride more than they value life. They will fight us even if fighting destroys them. Then we destroy them, Senator Crick said harshly. We show the galaxy what happens when someone refuses Council authority. And then what? Councillor Mothra asked. We spend decades hunting down human survivors across the stars. We create martyrs that inspire other species to resist. We prove to the entire galaxy that the Council maintains power only through violence. The chamber erupted into arguments. Some members wanted to back down. Others wanted to push forward. Admiral Jae-hoon stood in the command center beneath Seoul, surrounded by holographic displays showing every human military asset in the solar system. His uniform was crisp, but his face showed the tiredness of someone who had not slept properly in days. Around him, officers worked at their stations, coordinating defense plans across Earth, Mars, the Moon, and various orbital platforms. Status report, Jae-hoon said calmly. All fleets are at battle stations, an officer replied. The Indomitable and her group are holding position near Jupiter. The Defiant is at Mars with the 2nd Fleet. The Resolute guards Earth with the Home Fleet. We have mining stations armed and ready to act as mobile gun platforms. Jae-hoon nodded. It was not much compared to what the Council could throw at them. The Council had thousands of ships from dozens of species. Humanity had a few hundred vessels, most of them built in the last 50 years. But quantity was not everything. What about the special operations teams? Jae-hoon asked. Colonel Minji stepped forward. She was shorter than the Admiral, with sharp eyes and a constant look of calculation on her face. Teams are deployed and waiting for the signal. If the Council attacks, we will hit their supply lines within hours. Fuel depots, communication relays, trade routes. We have targets in 47 different systems. How many casualties do you expect? Jae-hoon asked quietly. Minji's expression did not change. We are trying to minimize casualties. Most targets are infrastructure, not population centers. But in war, there are always casualties. Jae-hoon closed his eyes briefly. He had been a soldier for 30 years. He knew what war meant. But this would be different. This would be humanity against most of the galaxy. Every death would matter. Every ship lost would be irreplaceable. On the Council station, the chamber was in chaos. The unity that had held for 10,000 years was breaking apart. Species that had been allies for centuries now argued bitterly about what to do with humanity. General Korvan stood at the center platform, his massive form covered in armor-like skin. He was a warrior from a species that had been conquered by the Council millennia ago. Now he served the Council military forces and he wanted blood. We cannot show weakness, Korvan roared. His voice echoed through the chamber. If we allow humanity to defy us, others will follow. The Council's authority will crumble. We must strike now, strike hard, and break them completely. Many Council members showed agreement. They were afraid. Afraid that other species would see humanity's defiance and think they too could resist. The entire system of galactic governance depended on everyone following the rules. But Councillor Prax stood up to respond. He was from a species that looked like tall, thin humanoids with silver skin. His voice was calm but firm. General Corvan speaks of breaking humanity. But has anyone here studied human military history? Truly studied it? Prax activated a holographic display. Images appeared showing human conflicts throughout history. This war was fought in trenches. Both sides lost millions of soldiers, and it dragged on for 4 years. This war was fought across an entire planet. It lasted 6 years and killed 50 million humans. This war was fought in jungles. A small human nation resisted the most powerful human nation for 20 years. More images appeared. This occupation lasted 2 decades and cost the occupiers thousands of lives. This insurgency continued for 30 years. This resistance movement fought for a century. Humans do not stop fighting just because they are losing. In fact, the harder you push them, the harder they push back. Senator Crix hissed in frustration. Then what do you suggest? We simply let them do whatever they want? I suggest we admit we made a mistake, Prax said. We came to them with demands, not offers. We treated them like children who needed guidance, not equals who deserved respect. We can fix this mistake. We can approach them again, this time as partners. Unacceptable, General Corvan said. If we back down now, we look weak. No, we must commit to our course. We send our fleets. We show them the price of defiance. They will surrender when they see our power. The argument continued for hours. Some council members supported Prax, worried about the cost of war. Others supported Corvan, worried about the cost of appearing weak. In the end, it came down to a vote. The militants won. Barely, but they won. High Arbiter Vel Throne announced the decision with a heavy voice. The Council will enforce its demands by military action. Fleets from 40 species will assemble and proceed to human space. If humanity surrenders, they will be accepted into the Council with the original terms. If they resist, they will be subdued by force. The decision was sent to Earth. Ambassador Tae Yang received it in his office at the United Earth Government Building. He read it carefully, then called Admiral Jae-hoon. They are coming, Tae Yang said simply. I expected as much, Jae-hoon replied. How long do we have? Their fleet is assembling now. They will be at the edge of our solar system in 3 days. Jae-hoon nodded. 3 days. Not much time, but enough. We are ready, Ambassador. I hope you are good at apologies because you will need to apologize to their families after this is over. I do not think I will need to apologize, Tae Yang said quietly. I think they will understand. Every human alive knows what we are fighting for. Colonel Minji was briefing her special operations teams. They were scattered across a dozen different ships hidden in places the Council did not know about. Some were disguised as traitors, others were hidden in asteroid fields. All were waiting for the signal. Listen carefully, Minji said through the secure channel. When the Council fleet attacks, we strike immediately. Every target must be hit within the first 6 hours. Fuel depots first. Without fuel, their ships cannot pursue us. Then communication relays. If they cannot coordinate, they cannot fight effectively. She pulled up a star map. These are your targets. Study them. Learn them. When the shooting starts, you will not have time to think. You will only have time to act. One of the team leaders asked, what about civilians? Many of these targets are near populated stations. Avoid civilian casualties whenever possible, Minji said. But remember, we are fighting for humanity's survival. If you must choose between mission success and perfect safety, choose the mission. The Council chose this war. We are simply choosing how to fight it. On Earth, people went about their daily lives with a strange calmness. They knew war was coming. The news reports were clear about that. But there was no panic, no chaos. People went to work. Children went to school. Restaurants stayed open. In a small coffee shop in Busan, 2 elderly women sat drinking tea and watching the news. They say the alien fleet will be here in 3 days, one woman said. Yes, I heard. The other replied. My grandson is in the Navy. He is on one of the ships near Jupiter. You must be worried. The second woman was quiet for a moment. Of course I am worried, but I am also proud. He is doing what needs to be done. We all must do what needs to be done. This conversation was happening in millions of places across Earth. Fear existed, but it did not dominate. There was something else, something the Council could not understand. There was determination. There was resolve. There was a quiet acceptance that hard times were coming, but they would face those times together. Captain Hyunwoo called his crew together one last time before the Council fleet arrived. They gathered in the ship's main hangar, hundreds of men and women in uniform. The Council is sending their fleet, Hyunwoo said. They think they can force us to surrender. They think that when we see their numbers, we will lose our nerve. They do not understand us at all. He paused, looking at each face. We are outnumbered. Our ships are newer, but they have more experience. They have allies from hundreds of worlds. We have only each other. Another pause. But we have something they do not have. We have the knowledge that we are fighting for our home. We are fighting for our freedom. We are fighting for the right to stand as equals, not as subjects. And that matters. The crew was silent, listening. I will not lie to you, Hyunwoo continued. Some of us will not survive this. War is ugly and cruel and good people die. But if we must die, we will die standing. We will die fighting. And we will make them regret they ever threatened us. A young officer raised her hand. Sir, what if they offer us better terms? What if they try to negotiate after the fighting starts? Hyunwoo smiled grimly. Then we will listen. We are not fighting because we want war. We are fighting because they left us no choice. If they come back offering real partnership, real respect, we will talk. But until then, we fight. The crew dispersed back to their stations. There was work to do, preparations to finalize, but there was also a sense of purpose. They knew what they were fighting for. In the Council station, Ambassador Tae Yang sent one final message. It was broadcast to every Council member, every world, every ship in the fleet that was gathering. You have chosen war, the message said. We did not want this. We only wanted to be treated with respect. But you saw our independence as defiance. You saw our pride as arrogance. You believed you could threaten us into submission. The message continued. You are about to learn a hard lesson. Humans do not surrender to threats. We can discuss terms as equals, or we can fight. You have chosen fighting. Very well. When you arrive at our solar system, you will find us waiting. We will not fire first. The Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. 4,000 ships appeared in formation, representing 40 different species. They stretched across space like a metal ocean, their hulls reflecting the distant light of Earth's sun. General Korvan stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. Around him, officers from a dozen different species worked at their stations. Holographic displays showed the entire fleet, each ship a small dot of light in perfect formation. Scan for human vessels, Korvan ordered. The sensors officer, a being with multiple eyes, studied his display. I am detecting human ships near Jupiter. Count is approximately 300 vessels. They are holding position and not approaching. Korvan smiled, showing teeth designed for tearing meat. 300 against 4,000. They must see the futility now. Open a channel. The communication officer complied. Korvan's voice was broadcast to the human fleet and to Earth itself. This is General Korvan of the Galactic Council fleet. You see our strength. You see your weakness. Surrender now and accept Council terms. This is your last chance to avoid bloodshed. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Hyunwoo listened to the message. His crew watched him, waiting for orders. He took a slow breath, then activated his own communication system. This is Captain Hyunwoo of the United Earth Defense Forces. You have entered our solar system with hostile intent. We gave you 3 days to reconsider. You chose to come anyway. We will give you one more chance. Turn your fleet around and leave. Come back when you are ready to talk as equals, not conquerors. There was silence. Then Korvan laughed. The sound was harsh and mocking. You think you can dictate terms to us? You are insects facing a storm. I will give you 1 hour to surrender. After that we advance. Hyunwoo closed the channel. He looked at his crew. All ships, battle stations. Prepare to engage on my command. Remember your training. Make every shot count. Across the human fleet, 300 ships prepared for battle. They were sleeker than the Council ships. Newer. Designed with the latest technology Earth could produce. But they were badly outnumbered. On Earth, Admiral Jae-hoon watched the fleet positioning from his command center. Colonel Minji, status on special operations. All teams report ready, Minji replied. Waiting for your signal. Hold position, Jae-hoon said. We give them the full hour. If they attack, we respond. If they withdraw, we talk. But we do not fire first. The hour passed slowly. In the Council fleet, General Corvan used the time to position his ships. He divided them into groups, planning to surround and overwhelm the human vessels. It would be quick, he thought. A few demonstrations of power and the humans would surrender. In the Council station, High Arbiter Velthrone watched through holographic feeds. He sat in the command chamber with other senior council members, including Councillor Prax and Senator Crix. The tension in the room was thick. They should surrender, Senator Crix said nervously. When the hour ends and they see General Corvan is serious, they will surrender. Prax said nothing. He just watched the display, his silver face expressionless. The hour ended. General Corvan opened channels to all his ships. All vessels advance. Target the human fleet. Disable their ships. We will show them they cannot resist. The Council fleet began moving forward, a massive wall of ships approaching Jupiter. Corvan expected the human fleet to fall back, to try to delay, to beg for more time. Instead, Captain Hyunwoo gave a simple order. All ships engage. Show them what humans can do. The human fleet accelerated forward, directly at the Council ships. It was not what Corvan expected. No sane commander would charge into superior numbers, but the humans came on fast and aggressive. The first weapons fired. Energy beams and projectiles crossed the space between the fleets. The Council ships fired carefully, trying to disable rather than destroy. They still hoped for surrender. The humans had no such restraints. Their weapons targeted engines, weapon systems, command centers. Every shot was precise and devastating. Humans had spent months studying every ship type in the Council fleet, learning their weaknesses. A Saurian destroyer took a railgun hit that punched through its shields and into its reactor. The ship went dark, drifting. A crystalline cruiser lost its main weapon array to a missile barrage. An insectoid carrier found its fighter launch bays destroyed by targeted laser fire. The human ships moved with purpose and precision. They fought in small groups, supporting each other, covering weaknesses. When a human ship took damage, others moved to protect it. When they saw an opportunity, they struck without hesitation. General Corvan watched in growing shock. His fleet was taking losses, not many but more than he expected, and the humans were not running. They were fighting like cornered predators, all teeth and fury. Increase firepower, Corvan ordered. Stop trying to disable them. Destroy them. The Council fleet's attacks intensified. Now they were trying to kill, not just wound. Human ships began to die. The destroyer Soul took a direct hit and exploded in a flash of white light. The cruiser Pacific broke apart under sustained fire. The frigate Moscow went spinning away, atmosphere venting from its hull. But even as they died, the human ships fought. The Soul's captain managed to launch her missiles before the ship exploded, taking down a Council frigate. The Pacific's crew evacuated, but not before programming the dying ship to ram a Council carrier. The Moscow, its hull breached and crew dying, still fired every weapon it had until power finally failed. On the Indomitable, Captain Hyunwoo took a damage report. Shields at 40%. Port weapons array damaged. Casualty reports coming in from all decks. Keep firing, Hyunwoo said calmly. Target their command ships. If we hurt their leaders, the rest might lose coordination. It was brutal mathematics. The humans were losing ships at a 3-to-1 ratio, but they were making each loss count. And they were not slowing down. On Earth, Admiral Jae-hoon watched the battle and knew the time had come. Colonel Minji, execute the operation. Hit every target. Across dozens of star systems, human special operations teams went into action. They had been hiding, waiting, preparing. Now they struck. A fuel depot in the Vrelian system exploded, taking with it enough fuel to power 100 ships for a year. A communication relay near the Council station went dark, cutting off coordination between sectors. A trade route through the Korthan Empire was blocked when mining charges collapsed a critical jump point. More attacks followed. Supply ships were destroyed. Repair stations were sabotaged. Automated cargo vessels were hacked and sent off course. None of the attacks hit civilian targets, but they hit everything else. In the Council station, alarms blared. Reports flooded in from across Council space. Humans were attacking everywhere at once. How? Senator Crix demanded. How did they get teams into so many systems without us knowing? They have been preparing for this, Councillor Prax said quietly. While we were debating, they were planning. While we were confident, they were positioning their pieces. They knew this would happen. They knew we would attack, and they prepared for every scenario. High Arbiter Velthrone watched the reports with growing horror. The humans were not trying to win a military victory. They were trying to make governing the galaxy impossible, while at war with humanity. Every attack was carefully chosen to cause maximum disruption with minimum casualties. It was strategic thinking on a level the Council had never faced. Most species fought direct battles, fleet against fleet. Humans fought everywhere in ways the Council had not anticipated. In the battle near Jupiter, the human fleet was being ground down. They had lost 100 ships, but they had destroyed or disabled 300 Council vessels. The ratio was unsustainable for both sides. General Corvan was no longer confident. His fleet was taking damage faster than expected. Worse, his crews were starting to hesitate. Most Council species came from prey backgrounds. They were not psychologically prepared for an enemy that welcomed mutual destruction. A human frigate, its hull breached and engines failing, used its last power to ram a Council battleship. The collision damaged both ships critically. Another human ship, surrounded and outgunned, detonated its own reactor rather than surrender, taking 2 Council ships with it. "They are insane," Corvan's second officer whispered. "No," Corvan said, understanding finally. "They are committed. Completely committed. They will die to the last person rather than surrender." On the Council station, Elder Magistrate Thundor entered the command chamber. He looked older than ever, tired and sad. "I told you," he said softly. "I warned you about persistence predators. They do not stop. They simply do not stop." He turned to face the Council members. "Look at what we have done. We are at war with a species that fights harder the more we push them. We are losing ships. We are losing infrastructure. We are proving to the entire galaxy that the Council maintains power only through violence. Is this what we want to be?" Senator Crick stood up angrily. "What choice do we have? If we stop now, we look weak. If we continue," Councillor Prack said, "we look monstrous. We are the ones who came with demands. We are the ones who brought war to their system, and they are defending their home. Every other species in the galaxy is watching. What do you think they see?" The Council members were silent. High Arbiter Velthrone made a decision.